Calgary Southeast.
Mr. Speaker, when the federal government released their budget, I know many Albertans were hoping that we'd see some help from Ottawa with our struggling economy, or at the very least, nothing to hurt us further. I and many other Albertans, especially in our vital energy industry, were therefore alarmed to discover that the federal government was ending the Canadian exploration expense, an important tool for junior energy companies to raise capital. To the Energy Minister, were you consulted on this change? And if so, did you try to do anything to stop it?
Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The day we heard about that, I was actually in Calgary speaking to EPAC, and I did express some dismay about that change, but I also asked Energy to work with us and help us support their thoughts about that tax to the federal government, and we're doing that work right now.
Given that the Canadian exploration expense has been replaced with the Canadian development expense, which spreads the tax incentives out over many years opposed to providing an upfront benefit, and given that junior energy companies don't have access to the large capital reserves available to larger players and rely on the Canadian exploration expense to fund exploration of new assets, to the same minister, does your government have any estimates on how much damage this change will cause our economy and what it will cause small and medium-sized energy companies?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I mentioned, I have reached out to groups such as companies that are represented by EPAC, and I have asked them to help me assess what the impact is of that tax. And as I know more about what that impact is, I will be working with them and their members to express that to the federal government.
Second supplemental.
Given that the majority of energy juniors operating in Alberta are started and operated by Albertans, and given that the growth of these junior energy companies is a vital part of the economic recovery in this province, and given that the removal of the Canadian exploration expense will seriously limit the ability of companies to expand and succeed, Minister, I'm glad to hear that you're standing up for these companies. How much more are you going to help them out because they are struggling?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We absolutely know that those junior companies are critical to the whole oil and gas industry. They're the ones that do the early exploration, and they bring a lot of growth and value to our province. As I mentioned, it's continuing work. I'll have more to report in the days to come.